Let's talk trash, because we are so tired of being tossed out onto our beautiful Tennessee roadways. It hurts, and it's UGLY. Come on, join the movement at NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Transportation.
Let's go to Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, we once again thank you for this opportunity to meet and gather, discuss business of the county. We ask for your guidance, and as we undertake the business of the county, we ask that you also keep those in mind and pray for those that are sick and not able to join us, and just keep them in our thoughts and prayers, Lord. All these things we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next is the approval or addition of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Wandell.
Oh, you got something to add?
County Road Department.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add under item 10, maybe make it item 11, Anderson County Highway Department.
Okay. Any other changes? Have a motion approved as amended.
Yes.
Got a motion. Right, have a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Next is appearance of citizens. If we have any citizens come before this board, seeing none, we'll move on. Esl Continuation request by Kim Jeffrey.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for allowing me a bit of time this afternoon. What I'm bringing to you today is a continuation of the ESL. I had sent you an email out on Friday after asking Annette to add this to tonight's meeting. If you look on the handout that I gave you on page 3 is the minutes from the HR Advisory Committee meeting, where a motion was made and passed to recommend to the Operations Committee for reinstatement of the 5-day ESL time upon an employee's positive COVID-19 test. So the email that I sent you kind of backs up some of the information, gives history on where we're at, current aggregate data, as well as the CDC and Tennessee Department of Health guidelines. What our neighbors are doing in regards to paid ESL is included. And then I also attached a sample of what we used in the past that we just need to decide dates if it's something that you all decide to move forward with. Not sure how much detail you want me to go into. What we would be looking for tonight would be, as an action item, approval to reinstate the ESL, and if so, the dates and the limits that you'd like to place on it, or discontinue of paid ESL for employees who test positive. The HR Advisory Committee did have quite a bit of discussion on the matter, but they kind of left it open for this body to discuss and decide if they wanted to move forward with it.
Mr. Chair.
He's got it.
This did have one no vote. I'm not gonna say who it was. What was the opposition
So
argument against?
it's always going to be probably the financial liability that is to the county, because it's additional time on top of their PTO. It doesn't come out of that. It's an additional paid emergency sick leave. If you remember back in 2020, the FFCRA through the federal government made it mandatory for us to add that for the 80 hours of employees based upon how many staff that we had. We had to do that. This body continued that, a continuance until 6/30 of 2022. At that time, it stopped. So that one was in regards to that.
All right, thanks.
Commissioner Meade.
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of doing this, and I'm going to explain why. And it has been well established that the vaccines available for COVID do not keep you from getting COVID, nor do they keep you from transmitting it. There is good evidence to show that they will reduce the symptoms you have to some extent, so I'm not saying they're useless. But we really don't want people coming to work when they know they had COVID, and we know that even if they've been vaccinated, they can still spread the disease to other employees. So encouraging people to not come in when they've tested positive for COVID, because if they've just been tested positive and it hasn't been long enough for their immune system to start to respond, they can spread it to other people. And we want to encourage people to not come in. And right now, I don't know if some people have noticed that there are some people that are in hard times with money right now. We've had a lot of inflation without the same kind of raises. Gas prices have gone way up. There's a lot of expenses that have gone up, and some people are hard pressed financially. And so those people might be tempted to come into work even when they were sick because they couldn't afford to lose the time. And so I think we need to encourage people doing the right thing by approving this. Thanks.
Any other discussion?
Just one.
Commissioner Wando.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kim, I guess my question leads in. I realize this is for what, 5 days? That's what the request is?
That's what the request is. Our prior ESL stated I think it was in accordance to the Tennessee Department of Health or CDC guidelines, and that's a 5-day quarantine. That's still what it is since we originally put that in place. So that's where that 5 days is coming in at. Now, of course, if that 5 days, let's say I work Monday through Friday, I test positive on Thursday, part of those 5 days is Saturday and Sunday, and you wouldn't get paid for that. You would only be paid for the time that you missed at work.
I guess my concern is, I've heard of a situation or two where somebody might catch COVID in the county and then they have a long-term bout with it, right? Mm-hmm. And then they've been paying for insurance and then they don't get to use it and they don't get reimbursed, short-term disability, long-term disability.
Oh. Okay.
And so it's kind of hard for me to sit here and go, okay, this makes sense to me, 5 days, but I just wonder, what about those individuals that have went long-term and then they're denied access to the insurance that they've been paying for? I don't understand how that works, and they're told to use their sick days. Mm-hmm. So here I am trying to justify in my mind giving everyone 5 days if they catch COVID, but you have individuals that have been out for months and they had to use their sick days.
Yes.
And they paid for the insurance to be protected, apparently, and so you understand what I'm saying?
I do know what you're talking about. So what you're speaking about is short-term disability. Okay. So at first I thought you were talking about health insurance, but you're talking about short-term disability. The county pays for the short-term disability on behalf of the employees, so it is a county-paid benefit, okay? And our policy currently states that if you're out on leave, like FMLA, those type of leaves, and usually your short-term disability and FMLA go hand in hand, they run concurrent, it states that you must use your sick leave and before that short-term disability will kick in. I do know what you're speaking of, and I do understand what you're talking about, but it is policy. And currently, our contract is written based upon our policy as well, so that would take a lot of changes to get to that point.
I'd like for that to be looked at. I mean, I just don't think it's fair that, people got to use all their vacation and sick leave because they're at home and they're paying for it, so it seems like they would be eligible for it, but I don't know. It seems like it's counterproductive to me, but you answered my question. Thank you.
I just did want to draw attention to some of the things that Kim put in the memo, which I think are more reasonable than allowing additional sick time. At this point in time, the city of Clinton allows new hires, so those who have not already accrued sick time, to borrow from future sick time. The city of Oak Ridge permits paid administrative leave for a test or vaccine. Blount County allows positive employees to work from home, and those who cannot telework can borrow from sick leave if needed. And then Rutherford County exempt staff positive cases can work from home. And one of the no votes at the committee is because there is almost an incentive. I mean, some employees actually may be sick and staying home and using their regular sick time. Some may just test and test and test and are getting additional time off. And I believe there is a potential for some abuse. And the operations of government still have to run, and if you allow maybe like the telework option, maybe things can still happen, but I just would encourage you to look at some of those other options instead of perhaps that additional. And we do have a very good, generous sick leave policy.
Any other discussion, motions, or?
Well, other than to say that almost any benefit, there is an ability to abuse. I mean, and so the fact that there might be a person or people from time to time that abuse something is not really a reason not to do something that otherwise makes sense. Thanks.
I see no motion, so it dies like a motion. We've got someone new that just came in. Did you want to approach the committee? You came in right after. I'm on 18 days. Okay.
Chair, I guess I didn't use the words, but when I made my statement, I meant to be supporting this. I should have said I'd make a motion.
Right.
To approve. If I make a motion, is there any chance that someone else would second it? Guess not.
I'll second that.
Okay. I think we should go on record as to how we feel about this.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Annette, you want to call the roll, please?
Commissioner Wandell?
Aye.
Commissioner Meredith?
Aye.
Commissioner Anderson?
Aye.
Commissioner McCamey?
Aye.
Commissioner Yeager?
Aye.
Commissioner Meade?
Aye.
Commissioner Scott? Chairman Isbell?
No. Motion passes. Support the full commission.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next is the Anderson County Tourism Emergency Action Plan.
Good evening. I'm submitting for your approval the emergency action plan that was created for the tourism building.
Second.
A motion and second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Next is Brownsville Volunteer Fire Department, request approval for law director's assistance.
Yes, sir, thank you. USDA has contacted me, and they need just one more step to finish this out. You gave me approval to start it earlier last year, and maybe the year before. And they've been going back and forth. They don't have the funds to hire an outside attorney to do it. And basically what it is just closing the deal. And it shouldn't take any more than half day's worth of work. But it's up to you. I'll be glad to do it for them.
Motion by Commissioner
Second.
McCamey, second by Commissioner Meade. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next was going to be the Anheuser-Busch Nickel Distributing, but the guy from Anheuser-Busch couldn't make it. But basically what they're doing is they're providing drinking water to first responders, to volunteer fire departments. Medford came, and they brought us like 200 cases. They took it to Andersonville, they took it to, now Briceville signed up for it. But when he comes, he'll give all the information. Something they've been doing for 30 years is they'll shut down, in time of a crisis, they've been doing it for Red Cross. They'll just shut down their operation and just make water. And, but that's what it's about. So we'll move on.
That's a really important thing.
Yeah.
And that's a great service to the state and the county. Because believe me, I've been around where firefighting was going on and taking part. And if you don't have enough water, it dramatically impacts the ability to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Chairman, if some others are interested, other volunteer fire departments, do they just reach out?
I'll send you the link.
Okay,
I was hoping to wait for him to get here, but I'll send everybody the link
Thank
from all the other different fire departments.
thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, next is EMS Claxton location, requested by Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Had a constituent, I believe he's here, if he'd like to come on up and address. Basically, he had a question or comments, thoughts on the idea of locating an EMS station in Claxton. We did talk on the phone, and certainly Nathan Sweet and the mayor are already looking at those things. But I wanted to give this individual a chance to kind of tell us his thoughts. And Chris Hammond, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Go
Which
ahead.
Thank you.
address, Chris?
6629 Kate Road, and the address says Knoxville, but we are actually, our road is literally the county line. So our side of the street's Anderson County, across the street's Knox County.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank you all for the opportunity to come and speak. A little bit about myself. I'm a health science teacher. I've been teaching for 11 years. My background is in respiratory therapy. Back in May, on the early hours of May 20th, my mother, Brenda Hammond, who lives at the same address as me, she had a massive heart attack, and I called 911. And I think, Director Sweet, you could probably, I think it was like, was it 22 minutes to come from Oak Ridge to get there? About, it was, I think I was told 22 minutes for EMS to respond to get there. And what I want to bring before the commission is, you know, the need for the Claxton community to have an EMS station. Because currently all we have is Claxton Volunteer Fire Department, and it's voluntarily staffed, and it's not the same as having a designated EMS station. I think the issue is where Claxton's located partway because it's really close to the county line. But and to be fair to EMS, it's not their fault if they're stationed out in Oak Ridge. It takes them 20 minutes to get to a call. I mean that's not their fault. That's where they're at. But with all the growth going on in Claxton, if you go up and down Raccoon Valley, the subdivisions being put in, the talk of the new school, to me, I don't understand why Claxton doesn't already have an EMS station. I feel like out in that part of the county, it's a little underserved in that regards, and I wanted to bring it to your all's attention. I know, like with my mother, thankfully she ended up surviving the event, but anytime you have a heart attack, time is muscle, and the longer someone's down, or let's say they go totally unresponsive into cardiac arrest, every minute you're down, your chances of survival decreases 10% if you don't have CPR going on. Fortunately, in that situation, I didn't have to do CPR. I am trained, but think about all the residents in the county that aren't. One immediate area comes to mind is right there on the Edgemore Ben's mobile home. There's a lot of people in that area all up and down Edgemore, and a lot of these people probably don't know how to do CPR. In fact, most people don't. So I've grew up in Claxton. I've moved around a little bit, but I'm back there now. And when I was growing up, it just seemed, I remember Anderson County and Knox County arguing over who would pave our road. And it seemed like if you were county line, you were out of sight, out of mind. Like you got the leftovers. And I think if you are going to pursue this new elementary school and the continued growth of Claxton, which I think is fantastic, Claxton has a lot of promise. There's a lot of opportunity there. I think an EMS station makes too much sense. There should be one there. And I was actually I sent an email to Mr. Wandell and I talked to him. One idea I wanted to bring up is maybe talk to TVA while you're, working on this potential idea for a school. See if they would donate some land for an EMS station. The first area that comes to mind is right there where you go in TVA, where the old car wash is. That thing's just sitting there rotting, wasting away. And I think actually a day or two after we had spoken, there was a terrible accident. There's been a lot of accidents on Edgemore. And a station placed within that vicinity of Edgemore would be able to serve not just Claxton, but also into South Clinton, because I talked to Director Sweet, and, he had even brought up the idea of having one either in South Clinton or Claxton that could maybe serve both areas. And I just don't understand why it hadn't been approached yet and why it hadn't been done. Now, I do understand to an extent, and maybe it is funding or what have you, but to me, this is a priority that's right up there with education. I mean, we're talking about people's lives. Fortunately, my mother was okay, but, I mean, what about the person that doesn't know what to do? What about the person that's on the edge of the county that it takes EMS, 20, 30 minutes to get there because they're out on another call on the other side of Oak Ridge? I mean, it may be expensive and it costs money, but I mean, you can't put a price tag on people's lives. So, and I say that, I'm not saying that to point the finger at anybody or anything like that. I'm just saying I would encourage you all, and I hope that a conversation can be started, or maybe this can be something that can move forward, because it's definitely a need. And that's really all I have to say about it.
Thank you, thank you, Chris, for giving us your insight and overview. Mr. Chairman, I did speak briefly to the mayor in between the budget meeting, and got a call from TVA about 2 weeks ago. I was out of town, but we're going to try to get together, the mayor and myself. They have some properties they want to show for the school, but obviously it makes sense. I think I'm on record. I'd like to get school, EMS, ball fields, football fields, another Optimus Club meeting venue. I'm going to ask for everything that I can for our community, because I think we deserve it, and hopefully we'll get some of those things. But the priorities are EMS, and again, Nathan and the mayor are working on that on their side, but I'm hopeful it'll be in Claxton if it can be. So I'll keep you posted, Chris, as I learn more. And me and the mayor, Mr. Chairman, are going to meet with TVA as soon as they can get the schedules to fit.
I remember that that come part of the discussion we had maybe a year ago about a new one in the Claxton area, and I think at the time, Nathan was actually looking for different properties. Do you want to address this, Nathan?
Yes, sir. So I think you might be referring back when we renewed the lease at the
Right.
Station 5 in Oak
Yeah.
Ridge. So it was distributed to all the county commissioners, where we had a station location study performed. And the results of that study were distributed to all commissioners. If you've lost it by now, please let me know. I'll happily send it back to you. But it did identify, and wasn't necessarily a surprise, that the Claxton area is underserved. It is a difficult part of the county to get to, because you either going through Clinton or Oak Ridge. Then you start getting into Cape Road, Blacks Ferry. I live not that far from Cape Road at one point in time off a road called Eddie Kimball. You actually have to go up Cape Road, take a left, go into Knox County to come back into Anderson County. It is rather difficult to traverse some of the areas there in Claxton. So that study did address looking at two options to help with Claxton. One, move our Clinton station, which is currently by the detention center, just the ambulance station, not the headquarters and the large garage, move it to South Clinton. So we've kind of been looking at that. What could that do? An opportunity it would provide. That does not add any trucks. It just relocates a current asset. Well, one of 6 current assets. And then it would also call for relocating 3 others on top of that one to help evenly shift the coverage throughout the county. So it is a dynamic situation. Now, if you're talking about straight up adding a new station, all new costs with that. New ambulance costs with 8 additional staff personnel. You're talking about new utility costs, all those things, which I know we did put something together at the request of Commissioner Fritz and sent that to Budget Director. And so we have looked at that as far as a projection of what that would be. But it does add straight up additional costs if you add a whole new station. Beyond the capital side, it's a reoccurring cost, of course. So it has been something that we have been looking at, the Station 5 there. Unfortunately, we've got about 9 months left on that lease with no place to go, so we'll probably end up having to renew that lease to give us more time to figure out what opportunities there are.
Okay. Commissioner Yeager?
No, I'm good.
When you say a comparative county to us, is it Blunt? Or who do you say is the closest to Anderson as far as maybe size?
I don't think there's anybody as special as Anderson County Commissioner. Yes, sir, thank you. I was sitting close to you, that's how I got it. It's tough to say because you may talk like a severe county, but they're so spread out and they're so dense in some areas. Roane County, they're less population, but they have that spread out feel, so something like that.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is what is our number of stations compared to other counties in similar sizes? I know nothing's identical, but are we similar, or do we have fewer or more than?
Williamson's County is kind of like us, about size.
Williamson,
Yeah.
I'd have to take a little bit, I've heard of their service.
It's about the same size.
Yeah, that's about as far as we go. I think if you were to take a look, we're probably either on average or slightly under average.
Okay.
For
That's-
as far
I was
as
just
number
trying
of
to
trucks.
Ballparking, so thanks.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I'll report back. The intent is to get some property, and I'll keep up with Nathan and the mayor and hear what their ideas are.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for coming, Chris.
Yeah, thank you. We'll move on to Pine Meadows Bend Mobile Home Park Public Workshop, request by Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following up on, I've had a lot of calls, a lot of emails, texts from the folks in Pine Meadows, Ben's Mobile Home Park. I've got a couple letters from Mr. Graves himself. One states that he doesn't believe he's responsible for the roads based on some old language. It might have been the 60s or 70s when the squires were still in. But it didn't say they took the roads. It said the intent. So that doesn't mean they actually took the roads. I intend to make this county the richest county in the world, but I can't do it just because I say it. Got to put. But anyway, got another one from him, and it said that he found a company that could pave the roads for $500,000. I just want to be very clear and not speak out of turn. I know Jay Yeager, law director, and the mayor, and zoning has done a lot of work on this and been evaluating it for many years. So I just want to be careful, but it's my understanding that from the mayor and Mr. Yeager that we do not own those roads. We don't, that's private property. It's not, unfortunately, our responsibility. So we got to figure out a method to fix the issue. And I think what the community would like to do, and talking to Jay a little bit, and again, had a chance to talk to Mayor a little bit, is we'd like to have a public hearing. Is that right, Jay? Or community meeting. And we could probably offer up the Optimist Club there in Claxton for that location. And it's not, the purpose of the meeting wouldn't be to,
point fingers and yell at the mayor or the highway superintendent or Jay or even Mr. Graves, but we would need to figure out a way we can fix this situation because it certainly isn't getting any better. I don't know how our EMS units even go through that location without major risk to the vehicle itself. And same thing with our sheriffs and first responders, and I know Claxton Volunteer Fire Department, all of them. So I guess what I'd like to do is propose a date and see if we can make that work. Jay, what do we need? 5 days?
Sir, we could probably notice, get the location, and, we'll put it in the paper and go from there. What's good with you guys?
Mayor, or do you have any open time? I'd like to do it on a weekday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday or something. Do you have any days that are better for you typically? And I understand you're not committing to be there, but if your schedule opens up, you'll be there, I assume.
I don't have my calendar on my phone. I think that last week in August is good. The week in, we do have that TDEC workshop on September 15th at 6 p.m. But that week prior to that, I think, is a very good week. So there's like, you've got Labor Day, and then that following week, I don't know, seems like my calendar's pretty open on that week as well.
Look at mine, Terry. That partial week is the 29th, 30th, and 31st, and then the week of the 22nd through 26th is our open week to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
County Commission, there's a couple charter commission meetings that week, and then that's the new commissioner orientation, which some of our senior commissioners are going down to be liaisons there.
Let's shoot for the end of August.
Okay, that
The third-
29th, 30th,
30th, if that'll work for everybody? That's a Tuesday.
Tuesday?
You want to check your,
I don't think I have anything in the evening that week. That's the one that came to my mind, so, but I'll verify.
If it's okay, I'm gonna make a tentative motion to have a community meeting on August 30th. Mayor, 6 p.m. okay? We'll do 6 p.m. on August 30th at the Optimist Club of Claxton Community Center. And that's my motion. And then have it publicly noticed.
We have a second by Commissioner Meade. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I'll second that. And the comment I have is that the standard legal method by which the county takes over roads is a developer has to bring those roads completely up to state and county standards. And then they apply to the county to have those roads taken over by the county. And I just don't think that the legal process has been followed in this case, so that's gonna take some discussion.
Any other discussion? Have motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Next is Anderson County Road Department by Commissioner Wandale.
Mr. Chairman, as the elections came down and went out to get the signs and all the storms that came through, it really surprised me. Our roadways, we got some issues. And I'm not blaming Gary Long, but I mean, I saw several slides. I saw several, there's a lot of issues going on, and, you know, I sat in on the budget committee. I was gonna say something, but I didn't wanna get it off track. They have issues and agendas to follow, but I'd really like for us to think about, and we probably won't do it tonight, but I'd like for us to think about setting some of them ARP funds aside to allow our road department to go out and take care of our county roads. I mean, and I'm not speaking about areas that, these are areas that I consider emergency needs. I mean, I went up I mean, there's roads in my district and every one of our districts. I mean, I can't believe there's probably none of us sitting here that didn't get a call from a constituent that said, hey, I got this going on, whether it's washout, ditch, blowout with the culverts. And I just think those type of, because, you know, you sit and listen to the discussion and budget, and, you know, we do need EMS units, we do need sheriff's cars. But if they can't get to where they're going, that's, for me, the issue. So I'd like, and this isn't a conversation me and Gary had. Gary doesn't even know I'm talking about it. But I'd like to see us set some of them funds aside, and I'd like to open it up for discussion for the fellow commissioners to see what your thoughts are. I mean, there's areas that need riprap and the new culverts put in, and I like to say thank you to all the first responders, volunteer fire departments, sheriff's department, utilities, CUB, and I'm sure Anderson County Water Authority was involved too. And everyone that's involved with that, a lot of people are out there working and trying to make it work. And the highway department, they obviously have been they're still working cleaning up stuff. So what's the thought? I'd like to.
That's interesting you brought that up, because I've got an issue in District 4. And one reason why we have these issues all across the county is because of our growth in our new building, and it's about water runoff. So we've got a church now that's flooding because of a new subdivision that was built behind it, where before the building was, you know, the water flow went to a different direction. So every time you build something, it's going to change that. So it's something, I guess, that we really need to address. Mayor?
Just FYI to that point, the TDEC money, that's the $5 million that can be used for utilities, can also be used for stormwater and culverts, and we did learn that, and I actually talked to our Geo Services about that. That would take some partnership with the highway department, if they'd be willing to work with Jason Mann, who's our project lead on that. And then also USDA, the Soil Conservation District, and I'm drawing a blank on the lady's name, they have a whole program for erosion and so do you remember, I guess it was a couple of years ago, where Roane County had the massive issues where roads fell apart? They were able to use some of those USDA funds for just such occasions. So there is, it doesn't even have to just be Anderson County. There's a lot of pots of money out there, and I know she's willing to work with the highway department, at least when I met with her last. No, this is the local lady.
I think it's Haiti.
Yes, that's her. Yes.
That's soil conservation.
Yes, yep. But she did a presentation on what they could do for roads with USDA.
Would it make sense for us to have a meeting sometime and maybe get Gary and some of the commissioners and obviously you, Mayor, to sit down and kind of go over these ideas and thoughts? That way he can tell us what he thinks he can work on, what he thinks he needs, and what he's limited on. I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean,
Yes, I would love that.
Do you just want to take the lead on that? I mean, I don't.
I think that would be a better lead coming from you and commission.
Okay.
Probably put it on operations again or something.
Okay. You want to put a motion to put it on next month's agenda to have a discussion on highway fixes and USDA and all those
Then
items.
maybe the highway committee can meet before to try to talk about it.
I like that, yeah.
I do think it might be best if it were just not meeting on camera and an official government meeting with motions. I think it would, my 2 cents, I think it would be better if we were just sitting around a table in room 118A or the community center, and we bring some of these other partners in so that they're not stepping to a podium and it's not.
I'd be very, and I agree with you, Mayor. I think I'd be very comfortable to have our chairman and you and Gary. I certainly think our chairman can handle it for us, and that way you don't have so many people at the table, and
I'd be happy.
And we don't have to have it
to
at.
do that.
And chairman can come back and report, and mayor too, to the operations and what they found. I'd like to see that. It's pretty bad out there. You're talking driving down the road, and the hillside's just washed out. I have one in my district, she's gonna lose her house.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm not saying it's the county's fault, but to your point, Chairman, build up in an area in my district, filled it in with dirt, created backfill, water, torrential rain. I mean,
Away
they've
back.
lost 30 feet of their backyard, and it is a cliff. And I don't, they could lose it in the next rain. I mean, that's how bad it is. It's,
Yeah, we've got the issues in Lower Briceville, or 116, the highway going over the mountain. I mean, it's dangerous to be in the
Yes.
right-hand lane going over the mountain.
you know, I'm almost thinking this is something, Mayor, we should probably get to the state. I mean, I know we're, thank God we're not to the level of Kentucky, and God bless them, and prayers for them for sure. But we've got some serious issues here, and I think it's time we probably knock on the state door and say, hey, we need some emergency funding to take care of some of our folks, because people just don't have it to go fix these type of issues. And, you know, they don't want to sue the county and say it's the county's fault. They just want to keep their homes, what they're wanting.
Well, and to Commissioner Isabel's point, I mean, I know I've been up several times in the Briceville area. The schools actually funded a project where if you go behind Briceville Elementary, you'll see just the continuous flooding continues to eat away at the bank.
Yeah.
And so they did a bank stabilization project there that the schools funded from our stormwater program. We actually helped put that work plan together, did some of the engineering, and then the application as well. To allow that to happen. But one of the things there is you have to have, you know, you have to have the engineering work to tell you what to do. And so, for instance, if you notice on the ARP, I put just the idea of a basin study for Briceville, because we continue to have problems, and a lot of it is private property. We just can't go in and work on private property, but we can do something to maybe control the stream and get permission and do all of that. But people need a work plan. They need to know what would work. And so, you know, a lot of it, and I prefer to just do and not really have to I like just the work. But sometimes we do have to have those plans and those experts to come in, and then we know where to send the money and what would be best.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just make a motion to have the mayor, law director, Gary Long, road superintendent, and our chairman meet as soon as they can to discuss the different options and ideas to obtain funding to repair the recent storm damage and get our county back to safe, you know.
Actually been in contact with the new state representative about District 41 about helping some on the Briceville side, which is in his district now, so I'm sure that he'd be willing to come, and I'm sure that John Reagan would too.
Great. That's my motion. Thank
We
you.
have a motion, second. Any other discussion? All in, oh, go ahead.
I want to say I appreciate the road superintendent. for
Yes,
what
sir.
he has
Oh,
done.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
I see him every day somewhere in this county working. And a lot of places in my district, there's a lot of water, especially even on my property.
Yes, sir.
But, you know, they go and do it, and the next day, we're right back doing it again, you know. It's, the dog days of summer is what my mother always told me. If it rains the first day of dog days, it'll rain 40 nights, 40 days and 40 nights, so, it's almost done that now.
Yes, it has.
Oh, I just think the intent of the motion is try to get
Right,
Gary all the
I
help.
agree,
No,
I in no way want,
No,
not
me neither.
implying that Gary's not doing a good job, because he is.
He is.
And he's got a crew that has worked, all through the pandemic and everything else, and, you know, still working every day, and they're out at midnight, cutting
Yes.
trees off the power lines and everything else. So it's, you know, I wanna thank him for that, because they have worked. And, anything that I can do to give him some additional funds, I'll be glad to do it. So,
I appreciate you saying that, because I don't in any way want to come
right,
across
and
this.
I didn't
No, thank you.
want to
insinuate that we were, but I just wanted to thank him, on TV here, and so.
I saw the trucks today, and I just thought, man, they just don't stop. I mean, it's just.
They're
it's
going
just-
continuously.
But he's got some emergency measures. If you do see a road that's fixing to cave in or a slide, he's been utilizing those Gideon baskets. He needs more of those, and that's a funding issue. And we've got a place down in District 1 off Raccoon Valley that he's put them in there to keep the dirt from sliding into the road. The other is, I don't know if you've ever seen the temporary bridge we originally put up down on Bunch Lane behind Blockhouse Valley. Be great to have one of those in stock for him. It just folds out and it can clear span a creek or whatever, just give him time to get build a new one. But those kind of things, he just doesn't have the money to keep that stuff in stock. So that would be great for him to have that type of equipment ready to go.
What's the weight capacity of that bridge?
They have different sizes and different weights, but really neat. They come in on a truck, they fold out, and you backfill them with gravel. They're sharp.
One of the issues that we have now in District 4, and I spoke with the mayor about it, is the bridge going into Beach Grove. It used to, they've hauled coal across that bridge forever, and now they've raised it down to where a school bus can't cross it. So now those people there, especially if they got 3 children that's in 3 different schools, have to make 3 trips, to get across the bridge, and of course with the cost of fuel, and that's something else. But that'd be good to know if we could do that.
That's a pretty big one right there, a lot of weight. Same thing over there close to Robert, the old wooden bridge. That's railroad. We've got a lot of those places around the county.
Yeah, we sure do.
Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to ask, like Nathan and his crew probably know areas they are tight and tough, and same thing with sheriffs, and same thing with our volunteer fire departments. They might say, hey, if you're gonna put an effort, I'd suggest this one, this one, this one, and we welcome that input, as we get into this. Good discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yeah. We had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Do we have any new business coming before the committee? Any old business? Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Did we we approved a new compactor, right, for Glen Alpine Convenience Center? Has that been set up yet, or did we add another? I was thinking that was in the last contract that we were gonna add another drop-off at Glen Alpine, or another pan, or whatever you call it, at the compactor, but I might have got confused. But anyway, the reason I brought that up in roll business, I thought we'd already discussed it, but I had a couple calls today that I guess for a short period of time, Glen Alpine was shut down. They had a cardboard sign out, and they had told people to either go to Wolf Valley or go to the landfill, but they didn't. I guess whoever the attendant didn't know the directions. He didn't know how to tell them to get to the landfill, so somebody called to get directions there. And then someone else called when they got to Wolf Valley, had some issues maybe with just the appearance. The fence looked like it was falling down, probably stormwater related, and then of course the grass was kind of tall, which was probably more rain related. But I was just wanted to follow up and see if there was anything we can do, because I know this is a Monday morning, so that's probably, in the Glen Alpine's case, that was probably an issue of maybe something didn't get emptied Saturday. So I guess there's a communication issue. I wanted to either make a referral to solid waste about that, and then also, I didn't know if you'd gotten any calls about Wolf Valley or not, but if there's anything we can do to help. I don't know if we need to send an inmate detail or something to kind of help clean that up, but I know that's more your area, but.
I do know on Wolf Valley, it appears that somebody rammed the gate. So if you recall, there was a power outage, and they had to shut the facility down for that day where everything was out. And apparently someone got mad and ran the gate, threw all their trash out, and even though that was, I mean, they just couldn't be open.
Right.
So that was the issue on that gate, and I think Jeff he apprised me of that, and is one reason I think we need cameras as well at every single convenience center. And then Glen Alpine, I don't know, I'll have to find out.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah.
just curious if
Yeah.
there's anything.
I know Jeff was working on that
Glen Alpine.
damage, and because I asked like what it would cost, because that's an expensive gate, very expensive, and it's new, so.
This was after hours?
Well, it was, I'd have to find out that day. There was a day where it was a complete power outage, and so there was no power at Wolf Valley, and yes, so they couldn't run the compact, I guess when they filled up and they couldn't run them, then they had to shut it down, and then someone acted out. So,
I can tell you one thing, by being associated in that type of business and dealing with some of our neighboring counties, our solid waste department does an excellent job. Because some of the neighboring counties, the states actually come in and shut them down because of the way they handle it. So I know we have our problems like that, but it's not anything like what I see from some neighboring counties. So they do a great job as well.
Just in the past 5 years, look at, I mean, they've really come a long way.
Yeah. I get a lot of positive feedback. Yes, I get a lot of negative calls occasionally, you know, and to the mayor's point, if the power's out, you can't be open. And I think a sign goes a long way, and I'm sure they had a sign out. You know, I'm getting a lot of feedback and one of the attendants this weekend, I heard him telling somebody that, call your commissioner if you got a problem. So I looked at him and said, here I am, what do you need? No, I was just telling him this, and this. And I've heard that from many people, you know, hey, it's the commission, it's their fault, call your commissioner, call your commissioner. Well, I want everybody at home to know, commission just approves the contract and the funding of the contract. Solid Waste manages it, falls under the mayor's department, and I agree, our folks do a good job, but I do believe there's some help that's needed. The new location that we have, I think one of the budget meetings I sat in says the first hour of the day you're supposed to clean the area, then the last hour of the day you're supposed to clean the area. Well, I'm not sure how much cleaning's going on, and I'm not criticizing anybody, but you know, maybe we do need some inmate detail to go out and maybe twice a week or something to kind of help spruce it up, trim the weeds, and you know, I don't know how the folks at home don't understand. A lot of people think that those employees are ours. It's the mayor's employees. It's not the mayor's employees. It's Waste Connections. We all know that. But so, you know, I've had some older gentlemen that they just don't understand it. They just like, well, Tracy, why don't they have pride in the job? And I said, well, I'm not saying they all don't, but it's a hard job, and I guess, but we got to figure out a way to spruce it up and keep it clean and keep it up to date. And maybe I think having the prisoners go out there to help occasionally might help out the situation.
Yeah, and I want to clarify, I don't think this was necessarily a Jeff issue, and I know people say when they call him, you know, he might not answer. Well, he's not sitting by the phone, he's out working pretty hard. But I think we need to contact Waste Connections, and I don't necessarily think they need to leave anything there. I know if it's not totally full, there's probably an added cost, but if you leave something partially full there over the weekend, you're kind of attracting pests and rodents anyway, and I think it, at least on Saturday, needs to be empty and ready to go Monday, because that's the next busiest day.
The landfill's only open half a day.
We pay by that run, and we tell them all the time to watch that pressure meter, because we want to get a full load, so we're kind of contradicting ourselves. Yeah, but we can adjust that.
Yeah.
just real quickly, not to belabor the point, but I agree with you on the cleanliness. I've actually been out there several times myself, and I did pass that word along to Jeff, and I, in fact, asked, is there equipment we need, you know, a blower? I asked one of the attendants, because some of the, you know, it goes to the perimeter which it's more contained at Wolf Valley. That's been the big issue at Glen Alpine. It's just when the wind blows, it's getting carried, and it just makes the site look unseemly. On Glen Alpine, we got some landscaping, we got that tree grant. I think things have looked a lot better. I did send a company out to look at Wolf Valley and send me a quote and maybe do some stuff that's not grass, but maybe like monkey grass or something that would enhance the appearance. So that is in the works, but you know, with everything else going on, I'm doing a lot of waiting, but yep. I've seen that myself.
Yeah, well, I just want to be clear now,
Yeah.
there's a lot of good compliments. A lot of people love the new facility. I don't want to sound like our folks aren't grateful. They're very grateful, and they loved it. And now there's more containers out there, and people get in and get it out, and you're able to encourage folks to get the signs. I still hear some of that, but I think there's signs there now. But I liked your idea when we broke ground that day to have some paint, you know, directional. I think that would help a lot. But no, it's all good. We'll work past this. Would the community be allowed to go out there and spruce it up if they wanted to, and bring weed eaters and clean up, or would that be a problem?
I guess that's a J liability question.
Could we do it like after they close on Saturdays? What time do they close on Saturday?
6.
6.
Oh, they go to 6 on Saturday.
Yeah, it's 8 to 6,
Yeah.
6 days a week,
Huh.
so.
It's
Yeah.
county property though, I mean, they can go anytime.
I think there are people in our community that would like to go, just, you know, it wouldn't take long if you had 6 to 10 people go out there and just weed eaters and sweep and clean up and help out. And, you know, I know that fence covering keeps flopping over because of the storms, and it's nobody's fault. It's just, you know, the storm's coming through, and then Jeff or somebody goes out and fixes it, and it looks good, and then it'll do it again. But, you know, we'll work through it.
Yep. I'd also like to see, we haven't put together a full meeting for you all on the logo. We had a logo committee. Commissioner Meredith was on it, Commissioner Yeager, Stephanie Wells, Archives, myself. Who am I missing? Seems like there was somebody else. Okay. I would like to see us do all new signage for all the facilities and have some continuity and just increase the professionalism and.
County logo?
Yes, yes.
I have no doubt.
But it would be good to have the same type sign at every, you know, and then it becomes familiar. If you do get sent to another one, you've seen, hey, there's a matching sign, this is a county facility, all of those kind of things. We can do that.
Any other discussion? I'd just like to say thank you to Commissioner Meredith and Commissioner Yeager, or Commissioner Yeager. Commissioner Mead for their service to the Operations Committee and what they've brought to the county. The input has always been great, helped in so many ways, and I just want to say thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You're certainly welcome. Thank you.
Gonna miss you. All good.
Okay, anything else? Nothing come before the committee, we'll call it adjourned. Thank you. I was retiring.